My favorite part of the day. Richard Southern joins us from the 680 News Business Center. Hello, Richard.
You're the best, Sin. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. It's hump day. We're halfway through the week. I'm feeling pretty good.
Well, with the election, it actually feels like it should be Friday, but okay.
I think we both put in about 2 or 3 days extra this week so far.
We did, but it was worth it. It was fun. Okay, let's get back down to business. The founder of Facebook was getting grilled before Congress today. This is really interesting.
Don't you wish that they kind of did this in Canada, where they haul someone in front of all the politicians and they just grill them nonstop?
That would be fun. Yes.
I know it would. So they did that again to Mark Zuckerberg, the Facebook CEO, today, and they were asking him, these U.S. politicians, about Facebook's potential interference in political campaigns. And Zuckerberg there, he admitted that Facebook doesn't fact-check any political ads on the service.
Which is such an interesting debate.
Because he says, Cynthia, listen, we don't want to make that call. We don't want to get in the way of free speech, right?
But some of the sites are so clearly manufactured false news. I mean, what should Facebook's responsibility be there?
We even seen some of those fake stories in the Canadian election. I remember someone sent me something, and I looked at the source, and I said, that's not an accurate source. Facebook, though, he says, Mark Zuckerberg says, we're not going to take anything down, and even if it's a blatant lie, because we're not going to make that judgment call. So it drew a lot of rebuke from the lawmakers. He also talked about the digital currency that Facebook is trying to start, and there's a lot of friction there about that.
That's a really interesting one, too.
He tried to defend it, but the lawmakers, they weren't having anything of it. The U.S. has yet to approve that potential digital currency. So.
Definitely something to watch. All right, Richard. Seafood lovers could soon be saying, okay, you wrote this, didn't you? Aw, shucks.
That's our wonderful producer, Mike Visser, with the credit on that
line. Okay, well, there's a possible oyster shortage looming.
Yeah, you won't be able to slurp down any of those oysters, not from a particular region of the United States anyway, Cynthia, without paying big money. Flooding by the Mississippi River, wreaking havoc with oyster production in the Gulf of Mexico, pushing prices for those delicacies sky high. The Gulf region is the biggest source of oysters to the states, accounting for 51% of the U.S. supply. We eat a lot of them up here, too, even though we have great oysters from Atlantic Canada. The flooding linked to climate change. They say it could take 5 years for it to recover. Are you an oyster fan, Cynthia?
Yes, actually, now and then. I like oysters. How about you?
Just a couple. I couldn't do a whole dozen. Just a few here or there is just fine with me,
here and there.
I work in radio, so I don't have oyster money. I don't have money for oysters every night, but I do like them now and again.
I hear you. Okay, so speaking of money, it appears many ride-sharing passengers are opting not to tip their driver. I'm going to say part of the problem, though, is initially we all thought the tip was in there, right? And then they added that feature. Yeah,
there was no tip. The company didn't want to add that, and they didn't until a year or two ago. New study finds 60% of Uber riders never tip at all. 39% do on occasion. Only 1% of riders tip every time, Cynthia. Men are slightly more likely than women to tip their drivers, and the drivers, they may actually need it. A study last year out of MIT found 2/3 of Uber drivers earn less than the minimum wage, although the company disputed that, claiming the average driver makes about $13 an hour. But it is a slog for those Uber drivers, if you know that, if you've talked to them, which I'm sure you have, that it's you got to drive a lot to make a buck on Uber and Lyft.
You really do. And, Uber has always said it's just there to supplement your income, right?
That's true. A lot of the drivers do have other jobs, but I think more and more people now are looking at these sort of services to make a living, Cynthia.
Definitely. Okay, well, speaking of driving, what's happening with gas prices tonight?
No change tonight. We're going to hold at about $1.16.9 a liter. And, Cynthia, I want you to hold on. Coming up in just a few minutes here on City News, I'm going shopping. Sobeys, they are showing off a first of its kind in Canada, a smart shopping cart that can do all sorts of wild things, but it may hurt jobs. We're going to ask Sobeys about that. Come shopping with me in a few minutes on City, Cynthia.
All right, Richard. Thanks very much. Looking forward to seeing that.
Thanks.
Double-edged sword, though, with the job losses, right?
It's true. We're going to ask them about it coming up.
Okay.